Well, let's resume with the text, and I have a number of things I want to cover tonight. Tonight is the last ever discourse, no, I'm just kidding, last of this session specifically on metta meditation. And tomorrow morning, we're turning to the Four Noble Truths. Actually, we always keep turning to the Four Noble Truths, but tomorrow, very specifically, it's absolutely essential, almost every single class, every retreat, to have some teachings on the Four Noble Truths. It's essential. Or the four great realizations of, really the way it should be translated, four great realizations of noble beings. That's really the way it's meant. Okay, some really important things today. Now, you notice that we've been working through the text on metta, but I've never actually opened up the dictionary and said, here's the definition of metta. So here's this aspect of metta, this aspect of metta, this aspect of metta, this aspect of metta. Often I start with, let's crack open the dictionary to see what the word means. And there is something I've noticed for many, many years. I know Namdra Rinpoche was strong on this 40 years ago, 50 years ago. But if you go onto the internet and you read writings and various things on metta meditation, you will see a funny thing happening. Not everywhere, but a lot. Metta meditation is moving into a meditation on affection. Not metta. It's very cool what's happening. So, tonight is a little commentary on that. If we open up the dictionary, the Pali English dictionary, let's go into some of the meanings of how metta was used. So it would be very advisable to drop the word metta, drop the word loving kindness, which is one translation, and not a bad translation, but not necessarily the best of the translations, and use the word metta. So in the Pali English Dictionary, we have metta as friendly. These are the actual meanings. Friendly. To be friendly. Benevolent. That means wishing to serve beings, wishing to support beings. Kind. Now if we go a little further, we see it's from Metta, M-I-T-T-A, but it is also, it's free of ill will. Mid is to love, but here's one of the most wonderful meanings of it, is to be fat. To be fat, to fatten something up. So if you go to the East, if you're too thin, it's sort of like being in a Jewish household, especially around grandmothers, the first thing they'll say to you, you look very thin. Even if you've put on weight, you look very thin, you need to eat. So there is a feeling that if you're thin, you're not being loved, you're not full of love. Yeah, this is the case. That's why you see some religious teachers at the tender age of 18 and 20 ballooned out with all the food they get and the constant offerings and the sweets and more sweets and have sweets and offerings, and by the time they're 21 or 22 they have diabetes. So friendliness, active interest in others. Beautiful, active interest in others. What are they up to? What can I benevolently do to serve them? So these are the meanings. Also, if you explore further, which I've done many, many times, you'll see that one of the meanings of metta, derived from its roots, is to mix. And I think that's one of the most profound. To mix or be connected to. Okay. How well is one connected and mixed. So to be friendly is to be well mixed. Bless you. Do not die at this point. That's what it means. Yeah. So there's a section here which is way too much time to go through on page 185, which is the 12 means of removing hatred, which you'd love me to, cover and say, how do I do it? But I'm going to pick and choose some of these, okay? Because this would be all night long. We can go through this fairly quick, but some I want to pause on. One should, what are the means of success in removing hatred? Yes? So we go from the relative all the way through to the contemplating the wisdom mind, which was a question that was asked the other night. Why not just abide in pure awareness? Doesn't that take care of everything? In theory, yes. In actuality, very difficult for most people to practice. So we still need antidotes. Number one should share in order to benefit the other. So sharing, gift giving, sharing. It can be sharing of things, sharing of ideas, sharing of good thoughts, sharing of activity, that sort of thing. Generosity, giving towards one whom one hates is a fantastic, marvelous thing. And when some people have come to me and said, well, that person hates me, what should I do? And I said, well, give them a gift. No, I will not. Not that person. It's really quite something. Nope, never. Won't give. No, never will I give to that person. They hate me. Try it. See what happens. Okay. Maybe you give them a subpoena. I don't know. That might be an act of love. Yeah, really. You think I'm joking? Oh, no, it could be. Here's a subpoena. You're being charged for hate crimes or something like that. Okay. So try that out. Is that if you're having a situation with somebody who dislikes you, or there's some dislike and anger going on, try finding a way to give a gift. It doesn't mean a packaged gift necessarily like this, all tied up in ribbons and so on with a love note. Not necessarily. How do you give a gift that actually changes that relationship? So this is an important point about metta. Relationship. Mixing. Interdependence. Kindness and interdependence. Next one. Merit. One should consider how to benefit beings with merit, especially those who are unpleasant to you or you don't like. How do you increase their capacity and merit? Okay. As I say, I'm going to go through some of these fairly quickly. It's up to you to contemplate them and go, how could I do that? Okay. Number 3, goodwill. That's pretty obvious. Bring goodwill into the situation. And if they don't recognize the goodwill, fine. Try something else. Recognizing one's own kamma, which is Pali for karma. Recognizing one's own mental intent, habit patterns in the equation. Not easy to do because we may have hidden or non-obvious patterns that we don't even know we're doing, yeah? That might be irritating or ticking someone off. Mind you, they also may be just naturally ticked off, okay? Number 5, debt cancellation. That's a bit involved. Debt cancellation is not so much getting, emptying out your Visa debt or closing out your line of credit. It doesn't mean that. In many ancient cultures, debt cancellation is a belief that if you wrong somebody, if you put them down, if you dishonor them, you have to repay that. You're going to have to settle that. That's called debt payment. It's not so much because they didn't have Visa cards. This is before most banking systems. Okay, so there was to slight somebody, to dishonor somebody, to put somebody down, to be disrespectful, to cause harm, required debt payment. Now, you know of certain cultures, I hope most of you do, where it gets extreme. It's called revenge and vengeance. And that can go on generation after generation after generation to balance out the debt because of honor and harm and so on. Yes? Mm-hmm. Very extreme. Centuries. Yeah.
Still happening in Israel.
But in the belief in the karma is in a future lifetime or in a lifetime, one still has to balance out that debt. That's a belief system among many ancient people, including in India. But when it comes to, we see the commentary here, it says, debt cancellation. Thus one contemplates, owing to my past mental activity or physical activities, speech activities, others blame me. Now I am free from debt. I've purified that. Okay, how do you purify? Not by having to repay it, but you purify it by purifying the mental habit patterns that you have now. That's how it's done. There's no way you can go back and do it. You have to do it now. How do you do it now? You're holding it in the karmic habit patterns, the mental habit patterns of right now. In the same way, for instance, in many places in the East, if someone says they want to know what your stream of being was doing in previous lifetimes, they just look at you right now. Whatever you're doing right now and what you are and how you manifest to a great degree is exactly, to some degree, what was happening in the past. It's printing out right now. Yeah. So, number 6, through kinship. Yeah. Through understanding and working within kinship. As I said, I'm just going to be very brief with some and more detail with others. By contemplating and considering one's own faults in the equation of kindness. Yeah. Number 8, one should not consider the suffering inflicted on oneself. So if you now go, woe is me, woe is me, woe is me, woe is me, you basically have an episode where you're considering yourself in terms of harm, or you take yourself out of the equation. What can I do for the other? What can I do for the other? Yeah. One should investigate. Now it shifts. One should investigate deeply. Number 9, the nature of the faculties. What are the faculties doing? Are they mixing well, or are they full of greed, hatred, delusion, pride, and jealousy? What are the faculties imbued with? How are you projecting and mixing both internally and externally? This is very important. And what are the nature of the faculties? Does the eyeball hold ill will? Does the eyeball hold attachment? Does the eyeball hold loving kindness or metta? What are the faculties doing? Is there such a thing as a faculty without mental activity? This is all Abhidhamma stuff. This is called the insight path, the Vipassana path. So, give an example. If there is kindness, what's the sensation of kindness? What's the faculties of kindness? What happens to your faculties when there's kindness? Anybody want to give a hazard a guess from the experience that you're having? Yes.
They soften.
They soften. Yes.
No, I was going to say soften.
Soften. Both say soften. Anybody else say something? Harden? No. When you actually really practice metta, the senses, commonly reported, become jewel-like, become radiant. They become friendly. They become interested. Yeah, you pick up a little wrapper like this, candy. There's maybe something in here, but anyways, right now it's a wrapper. It's like, ooh, curiosity. What does curiosity feel like in the mind? You see? Those are those are the faculties. What does metta do to the faculties? Yeah, really, really, what does it do? What's the sensation? So that's what we were doing with the feet and the legs. Right? Yeah. And that means also mental faculty. Number 10, the momentary destruction of states. Now we're moving fully into what metta can do, especially when there is the instructions and there's the teaching on this. Right? If the mind is super clear, settled, radiant, super clear, it can actually see a few arisings and passings away per second. If the mind is really, really radiant clear, one can see 10 or more comings to beings and passing away per second of physical and mental activity. If one is really, really clear, it's in the thousands. Yeah. So for instance, Michael could give you a demonstration. I've done this before, but you think that's not possible. How many moments of duration can your nervous system detect clearly? Well, we have a device here. It's called a crystal. How many beats was that per second? 5. Very good. 5. Isn't that amazing? What's 5? What's the duration of 5 per second? 1/20th of a second. Isn't that cool? And that's just a sound. Should we try a little more? How many was that? 12? 10? 12? Should we dispute this? 10 or 12? Okay, 10 or 12. Very good. Okay. 1/10th of a second of clear discernment. Can you detect each one? Yes. Each one had a formation, each one had a development, and each one had a breakup. What do you think you can do when the consciousness is incredibly clear and thought-free? You can hear the leaf detach from a tree, come down, fall, and make a rustle. How many can you discern in a forest at any given time? Hundreds. Okay. If you enter into that experience, you're entering fully into anicca, into transience, the experience of phenomena breaking up, phenomena falling apart, phenomena going through change. That's what it means. The momentary destruction of states, mental states, and physical states. Number 11, and aggregation. If you don't know what this is, boy, is that foreign, eh? Aggregation. That means you go to the construction yard and you contemplate aggregates for road work, right? Aggregates, small aggregates, big aggregates. Well, some of you have a smile on your face, but others go, I have a clue what you're talking about, Lama. Aggregates, right? It's fascinating. Road aggregates, absolutely fascinating. The science of road aggregates. I used to be an inspector of highways, and I had to actually supervise and lay down highways. So we had to really know our aggregates, how particles and different kinds of rocks go, and those are called aggregate science, engineering, right? So, okay, anyways. So, but that doesn't mean that. What it means is the aggregation of formations that bring about this experience of beingness. That's what it means. What's the components of beingness? And if the mind is really clear through metta, and I'm doing it too, loving kindness, through metta, mind becomes resoundingly clear and able, so this investigation is able to explore the nature of the faculties, able to experience the momentary destruction or breakup. The word destruction is really breakup, not so much destruction. The collapse, the breakup, the crumbling of states. Number 11, and aggregation. The experience of that which feels solid is actually aggregated, which means it's empty of any solidity and actual formation. Cool. What would happen if we say, okay, well, this pyrite crystal is solid, but we may discover it's an aggregation. It's not actually an entity, a permanent entity. Same with a table, same with a little doggy, same with a computer monitor, and so on. These are aggregations. When we experience ourself and we are in dukkha, we're in friction, we're in confusion, we have a solid, real self-experience, an outer, an inner. There's a tent here, there's a being here, and so on. All these are fictions. Number 12, one should investigate emptiness. That the both self-experience and outer, inner self-experience has no substantial reality. It's made of concepts. Yeah. Okay. Doesn't truly, actually exist as a real thing. It only appears so based on concepts. This is very important. So that is what great metta meditation gives the ability to do, is to look at really what's happening. It gives great metta. Yeah. So then there is the instructions on that. So what I'd like to do is turn to page 187 now. That's a very quick summary. And you'll see the last point on those, on the top of 187 of those 12, is the body is the result of causes and conditions. If you look very clearly, you will not find a soul entity in the aggregates. Go find it. Go look. Very important. And then there is a stanza by the Buddha. He who dwells amidst the village grove, experiencing pleasure and pain, is not burned because of self or other. Why do we get burned? Why is there dukkha? Why is there a mental affliction? Because his or her mind is passionate. That word passion is very old-fashioned. It means greed, hatred, delusion, pride, or jealousy. That's what it means. When there's greed, hatred, pride, jealousy, delusion, pride, and jealousy, there is the passionate mind. And what's passion? Overblownness, friction, and so on. You might say, well, wait a minute, I'd like to be a passionate being. Doesn't mean taking life out of it. It means taking the wandering mind, the mistaken mind, out of it. And so if your awakening practice is actually really developing, over time you're going to see that most of the time you might have, oh my gosh, that was a great golf shot, but then it just falls. Less and less overblown passion to a continuum of evenness, of clear, lucid, kind, compassionate states. And what are the emotions? People say, so what emotions? Buddhists want to get rid of emotions. You know that, right? You don't know that. They want to get rid of all emotions. No, they don't. They'd like to get rid of all unwholesome emotions. All emotions that are maladaptive, that don't work for what? For liberation, metta, karuna, mudita, and upekkha. The four great emotions, the four boundless emotions, is what we'd like to develop. Kindness, compassion, sympathetic joy, and an evenness of experience of phenomena. Thus, after that yogin, or that practitioner, has clearly understood through experience, not just through intellect, but through real experience, the way of destroying or breaking up dosa, breaking up hatred. And remember, when it says hatred, it means the full range of dosa, all the way from little irritations and frustrations to full-blown rage. That's that. Remember that. Doesn't just mean hating. It means everything to do with a frustrated or striking out patiga mind. Has identified friends, indifferent ones, and enemies with him or herself, and acquired facility in the practice, gotten very, very good at metta. So some people tell me it's wonderful. Just something simple as this in this retreat. It used to be that when a wasp came around, I'd run. Instantly run. I'd back off. I'd swat it. I'd try to do something. And as someone said, is this a sign that things are going okay? Now I don't do that. I don't react that way. Yes. Yes. That's because of practice of metta. Should gradually arouse the thought of metta and develop it for various bhikkhus, various members of the community, in his dwelling place. So, this is number 7. If you want to put a number 7 here, this is a bit of a jump, but number 1 started on page 184. Okay. Having by these means and through these activities at the bottom, halfway through the bottom paragraph, starting with line 436, having by these means and through these activities developed the thought of metta and repeated it. So that is that number 1? No, number 1's above that. Yeah, number 1 is 183, which I mentioned the other day. Halfway, well, near the bottom, but not quite near the bottom, about maybe 10 lines above. If his mind is pliant and is able to bear the object, he should practice metta. That section below is number 1. And we gave the numbers before, and now we're actually at number 7. So how do you practice? I've already outlined this. How do you practice? Practice for all the beings in the room. It's a beautiful practice. Right now, can you physically feel, mentally feel, friendliness, benevolence to every single being in this room, without exception? That means you, and 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 you are exactly the same benevolent attitude. Not, you are more. I give more kindness to you, and more kindness to you, and way more. No, not that person. I don't want to bother. Okay. So every single being in the community that's gathered, that's what it means, in the dwelling place. It might be a monastery, it might be a forest hermitage, it might be Crystal Mountain. So you fill it, until you really feel it. You physically feel it. Yeah. You can. It's tangible. After that, he or she should develop metta for the community, the whole community of bhikkhus. So that would be all the beings, let's say if it was maybe all the beings of Galiano Island, and so on. You get the idea. So that then we go to the next one. After that, developing love, metta for the deities in the dwelling place. So in those days, deities were real things. Today, we're cool, right? We're modern, we're hip. No deities, no elemental beings moving through. Yeah, but in those days, and I've met beings like that. They're seeing elementals and deities quite often. You see that? There's a being there, going there like this. Yeah. Today, no, because we don't have the concept. We don't see them. Do they exist or not exist? Do you exist or not exist? And people say, those things don't exist. That's old-fashioned stuff. Really? Do you exist or not exist? Yeah. Just because you can't see it doesn't mean that other beings can't see it. Okay. Anyways, deities. And then number 9, I think. No, that's number 9. After that, developing metta for beings in the village outside of the dwelling place. So all of Galiano Island, all of the Gulf Islands, except Salt Spring. No, I'm just kidding. It's a joke. That's a joke. Okay. All the beings of Canada, except for those in Toronto. No, you see? But all the beings in Canada, all the beings in North America, without exception. Yeah. Okay, that's number 10. From village to village, from country to country. They're telling you systematically. After that, one should develop metta for beings in one direction. That yogin pervades one quarter with thoughts of metta, and so on. It goes through it, and it's systematic, so remember that. Don't get sloppy in your practice. When you just sit down and say, metta everywhere. We can do that for a class, but actually when you go into retreat, don't do that. Please. It's not a good way to practice. Practice that way when you've got really good accomplishment. Bam! You know how you get like that? That's because you've done this way, this way, this way. What do we do with the foot tonight? We didn't go, well, that feels cool, right? This way, 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 this way. And you can play scales. You can play scales with your formations. That's how you get good. I mean, I know a whole bunch of people in this room that are really skilled in many things. And how did they get there? No, they practice scales, whether it's movement or music or administration or medicine, right? I think I'll cut open a cat today. And I'll think about stitching it up later. And actually what I'll do is watch a YouTube on stitching as I'm doing that, because I really don't know how to stitch. I'll just cut it open first and think later. That's not how we practice in this way. We go systematic until it becomes automatic, natural, and you know that you're spreading metta in all directions. Eventually, you don't even have to spread metta. Metta already is. It's contacted. Okay, and then it talks about entering into jhana. So jhana is where the mind shuts up, if I may. So the first feeling of jhana, what's one of the first signs that one is beginning to get close to jhana? It's a real classic sign, and you should all know it. It's lovely.
Less thoughts.
Less thoughts, yes. One other.
One.
Yeah, but another one, classic.
Contact.
No. Too complicated, you folks.
Breathing slows.
Breathing slows. Okay, good. What else slows?
Heart rate.
Heart rate, yeah. What else?
Movement.
Ability to feel your body.
Yeah, the feeling in the body goes up. It's called piti. What else happens? Strange feelings in the body. Hands that feel really odd. Legs that feel odd. Beautiful, odd, solid, rubbery, watery, different kinds of sensations where the body's loosening and it feels different. Yeah, so there's stages. Eventually entering into completely one-pointed experience on the care and benevolence of beings without thought. Okay, we're moving down the page quickly. Here, when one develops metta for one being, if that being is dead, that object is lost. This is for living beings, not dead beings. If he or she loses the object, he or she cannot arouse loving kindness. Therefore, one should develop the thought of metta widely. This is a meditation of infinitude. The Brahmaviharas are infinite in dimension. If it isn't, it's still not done. It should be absolutely boundless. No constraints to the limits of metta. Thus, practicing, one can fulfill great fruition and merit. We're going to take a break for 10 minutes and finish on page 188 some very important points in the conclusion that are essential to hear about this meditation. So 10 minutes, let's get back in a bit. Have a stretch. Okay, number 188, page 188. What are the roots? Manifestation, fulfillment, non-fulfillment, and object of metta. Okay, this is exactly what's coming out of this practice, the full practice. Answer: absence, gone, of greed, all states of greed. Greed also means lust, wanting, affection, attachment, stickiness is a root, gone. Absence of hatred, dosa, is a root, gone. Absence of delusion is a root, gone. Delusion is everywhere from confusion, bewilderment, dullness, acts or states of stupidity. Stunnedness, as Namjum Rinpoche had a wonderful phrase for this, stunned mullets. Fish, basically, like frozen fish. Mullets. Willing is a root. Right consideration is a root. So you can now take all of the, which is tomorrow, all of the path factors are roots. Right intention, right livelihood, and so on. What is its manifestation? The making visible of these roots is its manifestation. Which manifestations would you like? This is my question to practitioners all the time. What would you like? Which kind of states would you like? Would you like beatific states? Or would you like unstable or five poison states? So, it's what's the manifestation? The making visible. That's really important. You can underline it. Visible. Oh, I imagine I'm completely enlightened. You know, when you're in retreat, it's just wonderful. It's amazing. You know, you can look at these lists and go, "That's me. That's me. I'm really pretty enlightened now." But when you walk out of the cabin or off the property, and the first person you meet, you realize, not. Okay? So, make that which is mentally great, make it visible. Make it become manifest. In the words of Namjul Rinpoche, very often, that's very nice that you've had that meditative experience, but can you manifest it? Can you bring about its usefulness? Not just have a nice meditation. So you have like the gunslingers of the Wild West, they used to have notches on their belt for the number of people they killed. Well, at least in the movies. In the movies. We watch those cowboy movies. So they had notches in their belt. The gunslingers. So I've met people who are meditation gunslingers. I have. I'm not joking. And, Jamie, who's visiting with us, Jamie's first retreat at a certain retreat center, I said, go down there and visit, for the first night of a retreat. He came back with his mouth open. Who are these people? In 1974, I had the experience of enlightenment. So, and then in such and such year, he remember coming up. What are these people? And then son, right? Because he was about 20. He looked like he was like 12 or 11. Son, when I was with the bhikkhu, way back, right? The bhikkhu, way back, I had the experience of path. I was told I had the experience of path. And it's like each notch is now carried around. Well, what about now? You just ask me, so what about now? And a great story about Dzogchen, this great Dzogchen master sitting beside this ordinary being, and the being said, well, who are you? I'm a Dzogchen master. Really? Yeah. What are you doing to me? Oh, so you're Dzogchen master. Anyways, it was the look on his face was really cool. I went, wow. So, making visible, making fulfilling. What is its fulfillment? When one is endowed, right? Underline it, endowed, real stuff, endowed. Not just the imaginations you can have in meditation retreat. All the world is filled with my loving kindness. I've soaked the planet in radiance of loving. God, I'm really good. And then you're out and go, what is that? So fulfillment. When one is endowed with metta, he or she destroys hatred, dosa, removes impure affection. Impure affection. And purifies his bodily, verbal, and mental actions. Body, speech, and mind. Purity. This is called fulfillment. What is non-fulfillment? Through two causes one fails in the practice of metta, through regarding friends as enemies, and through impure affection. By the way, most texts have a bracket around the impure. The word impure is put in. It's just the word affection. So, in other texts, for instance, later texts in oral commentary, you'll see explained exactly how it is. So, from the later text called The Path of Purification, as to the characteristics, etc., metta is characterized here as promoting the aspect of welfare, benevolence. Its function is to prefer welfare, the support of beings. It is manifested. Manifest means make real, bring it into being, as the removal of patiga, striking out. Its proximate cause is seeing the metta in beings. It succeeds, you have successful practice, when it makes ill will, dosa, subside, and it fails when it produces affection. So I'm telling you. I was asked a question somewhere recently, metta is affection. I started this session of teaching, saying, no, metta is not affection, it's the enemy. Okay? But it is so pervasive in the teaching of metta today, you'll see metta meditation on love and affection. Affection. This is a culture that has been permeated by the idea of love is affection. Is it? Yes. But love is conditional, and love has to do with the transaction. Affection has to do with the transaction. So you may say, wait a minute. Affection, isn't that what we're on about? There's a difference between metta and affection. And I'm going to ask all of you, are you practicing metta because you need affection? You need to feel loved? Or are you practicing because you really have an infinitude of the welfare of beings? So, where's the anxiety? I always ask this question. My simplistic psychotherapeutic mind. Where's the anxiety? Beings are deeply anxious because they don't feel affection. They don't feel loved. There you go. Okay. So there it is, right in the text. Failing because of producing affection and not metta. Yep, right there. And further, the near and far enemies. And here each one has two enemies. The one near and the one far. The divine abiding, which means the infinitude, right? Divine, godlike state of infinitude experience, of metta, has greed, attachment, as the near enemy, since both share in seeing virtues. Greed or attachment behaves like a foe who keeps close by a man or a woman and easily finds an opportunity. That's very archaic translation. It basically says when the affection or the greed or the lust comes up, It's really easy to have karmic opportunities to have that manifest. Metta is the care, support, the wish for the happiness and the welfare of sentient beings, called friendliness. Yeah. Now, is that saying that you can't have affection? No. But don't mix it with metta. That's all. So it says here, it easily finds an opportunity to manifest. So metta should be well protected from it. And ill will, or patigha, which is dissimilar to the similar, very awkward translation, the similar greed, is the far enemy, like a foe. Now, other places say that dosa, or anger, is the enemy of metta, and the near enemy is affection. That's how it's placed. It's near. In other words, it's so easy to stray into a meditation on affection for those beings I like and hold in my heart. So I'm going to give you a practice to do to counteract that, which I've given for like 30 years. I would like you to meditate tonight or tomorrow on Vladimir Putin. Really. I want you to pick people that you despise or you think are bad people doing bad things. And I want you to fill them with not affection, but with the care and the feeling that may they be well, may they find a hobby. Please, like, may you send some dictator a letter that says, I think you're having some struggles, and it'd be just wonderful if you took up stained glass making. It'd be lovely, wouldn't it? Imagine getting a letter, in the middle of a war. You're having some issues. Think about maybe wood turning as a hobby. I'm actually serious. Care and love for beings that is murders. I remember saying to people in classes when Gaddafi was being hunted down and he was losing the country, remember?
Yeah.
I was saying, please pray for him. People, I don't want to pray for him. He's awful. He should be killed. No, that's terrible. You should love that being. May that being flourish. May that being be cared for. Yeah. Doesn't mean he doesn't go to jail. Doesn't mean he doesn't get arrested. Yeah. That's also love. So he stops doing harm. But it's really important that you practice with beings that aren't just your enemy, but people that you actually, you go, oh, I despise. That's a really evil being. It doesn't mean that you don't, hold a war crimes tribunal. It doesn't mean that they don't get arrested. It doesn't mean there isn't a subpoena. But hold them in your attention with infinitude. May they be cared for. May they be well. May they be safe. Maybe they don't feel safe. Maybe that's the problem. When a being doesn't feel safe and doesn't feel loved, what do? They strike out. They do all kinds of awful things because they don't feel loved. So I'm going to propose to you that one of the greatest anxieties that beings are facing, especially that I know this Western culture, is the neurotic need for affection. Love at all cost, to be loved at all cost. This is the near enemy of metta meditation. That doesn't mean I'm advocating no affection. You can see by my demeanor, I quite am affectionate being. Doesn't mean no affection. It means you better understand what you're dealing with. Good. Thank you very much. You can see I'm being strong on this point because I can see so much of Buddhist Dharma being turned into things that are nothing to do with Dharma, maybe a Dharma of clinging. And then the last one, non-fulfillment is produced when one arouses the feeling of enmity, hatred, and rivalry, competition. Thus should non-fulfillment be known. What is the object? Beings, living beings are the object, not imaginary dead beings. Living beings. Mix with living beings and understand their nature and have a care for them. Yeah. So that's why we need to turn to the Four Noble Truths tomorrow, because we need to see what kind of difficulties sentient beings are in and why it is they may be struggling and why they need care and attention. Yeah, yeah, that's it. Any quick questions? Come back to that. You know, a lot of people are really studying this because so many people are having problems sleeping. Yeah. How do you best prepare your being for sleep? Would you like an answer? Metta. Not metta, that metta, you know, you turn it on, it says metta.
Yeah.
Not that metta. But metta. All the scope of metta. The scope of metta. All the qualities of metta. Then you go, okay, what would that be like? And one really good one, not for you in retreat so much, but for many people, is turn that computer off a couple hours before you go to sleep. Read something. Meditate. Sometimes meditation produces so much energy. I have people tell me after these classes, can't fall asleep. That's a good sign. Completely bright. So, is there going to be any sleep tonight? No. Good sign. Really good sign. Thought free? No sleep. Get used to it. Okay, that's plenty for tonight. No more joking around. Let's get serious. By this powerful activity, may it lead to the cessation of the asavas, the floods, the bewildered, emotional floods for all sentient beings. May all sentient beings have excellent relative happiness, excellent relative health. May they all discover primordial awareness, free of any fabrication, utterly, infinitely compassionate, unfold the skills inherent in emptiness as a glorious gift for all sentient beings. Sarmangalam, Sarmangalam, Sarmangalam. Good. Tudiche.